Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of In Lay Terms. I am your host, Payman Ascari, and we have back with us Mr. Alan Abbott. Alan, how's it going?
It is going great. I feel super, even though every time I dare look at the news, I think, oh God, what? Okay, I got to turn my phone off for a second here. Uh,
Yeah, it's never a dull moment with our media
yeah,
landscape.
that's right. Yeah.
Um, so we're going to have a really interesting conversation today. First things first, I am suffering from some wicked tooth problem. So if I look like I'm more moody than usual, or if it looks like I'm not interested in anything Alan is saying, that's because I'm dealing with the pain. There's
Yeah.
nothing to do with Alan.
Do you
So
have any aspirin?
no, I should go buy some. Yeah, I actually don't have any with me. I usually
Yeah,
take Advil. Aspirin's better.
aspirin is better. That this is one that I've read about a long time ago. Is that you take an aspirin and just chew on it right where the pain is, and
I'll
that'll
just
help.
say I'll take some whiskey and I'll rub a little and then I'll drink the rest.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, Alan. So we're going to be talking today about what's wrong, what's going on in Canada, but also you want to talk about solutions moving forward. About an hour ago, some people tuned in. I read your fantastic article. It just blew me away. You were comparing Canada with America.
Mhm.
Tell us, what's on your mind, and oh wait, before we do that, if I could ask everyone to share and repost the room, that would really help. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll get to them at the end. Yeah, Alan, tell us what's on your mind.
Well, the first one is just to reinforce the comment you just made is that anybody listening, like and share, because that's the biggest problem we have is getting our messages out to people like ourselves that see that there is a problem, and we're always all wondering, well, what can we do about this? And we have to work together. And like that's one of the issues I find with the I I don't like using the term conservative, but I will say uh, I'll use that word for now because I don't consider myself a conservative, because to me that term is in the like just like so many words in the English language. There's multiple meanings, and the ones that immediately come to mind for me is being very careful, very cautious about doing anything. Yet in the political sphere, it's usually said, well, being conservative, you're much more fiscally responsible and things like that. Ironically, conservative governments we've had in the past, and this goes back a long time, have never been fiscally responsible. And so that's why I don't like the word conservative. But we need to get back to smaller government. That's probably a better sense of it. No, I've done a lot of reading over the years, especially the last five, and the three names that keep cropping up that really have impacted on me are Thomas Hobbes, and his claim to fame is writing the book Leviathan, and that one was really eye-opening because what he's described as Leviathan is what we have right now: big government. Everything is the solution to everything is big government. And then you have the opposite, and that was John Locke, and it's individual freedom. And the individual has control over things, including ownership of your own uh, handiwork. Whereas Leviathan, no, you work for us. We don't work for you. And we're seeing that right now with our federal government. And then the third person, of course, is Adam Smith. You know, that the one that really nailed it for what an economy is, and how we as individuals, that's how an economy should work, is that you and I decide between ourselves, I have something to sell, you think about buying it, but only when we both come to a mutual agreement of what the transaction is. And when we leave, we both feel happy that we succeeded. I got enough for my product where I've got a bit of money left over, a profit, and you're happy. You have got something you didn't have before, and you didn't have to do anything more other than pay some money. And that's the centerpiece of free enterprise. And free enterprise works really well. And unfortunately, socialism, and like it's a phrase that I've been using more and more of late, is it's the sharing of misery. And I don't want to share misery with anybody. I want to share good things. And it's just like that saying, we also hear that uh, when an economy rises, no, you lift all boats. And that's really where we are right now, is that we have a federal government, especially, that's killing our economy on purpose. Like no, Carney, he no, what was it? His Brookfield Management, and he moved it to the States. Like he all of his assets
What?
are outside of our country.
Alan, on Brookfield, people are talking about the conflict of interest, the 101, but that word is that phrase is misleading. That would be like an international human sex trafficker running a high school, and you'd be like, oh, he's got a conflict of interest. No, the guy's a monster. He's the enemy. Brookfield is the asset management company that's here to foreclose on all of our assets.
Yeah, yeah, and that's where we are right now. So what do we do about that? And one of the aspects is we can gripe and complain about it. And that's one of the things, like I do appreciate hearing griping and complaining, and why I do take the time. One of the very few live streams, well, I don't watch them live, but oh God, what's the term? Like what we're doing right now.
Podcast?
Podcast. So that's the sorry. I know so often I have these brain farts. The podcast with yourself and Jason James, Behind the Wall. And for those listening, if you don't subscribe to that is excellent. It's great value for one thing. Like Jason charges like $50 a year, and a Canadian, $50 Canadian. So that's a real bargain these days, because there's a few places that they do it in US dollars, and it doesn't take long. It adds up. But still, you two have some great conversations that very seldom have I missed listening to one of your podcasts. Those podcasts, I have to admit, I don't really partake in very many other podcasts. Very few. I'm an avid reader, and I'm always glancing and reading various things. And as a result, I kind of dedicate like 15 to 20 minutes at best. And an hour and a half podcast is too much for me. The occasional one, if it really grabs my interest, I'll do that. And yours fits in that little niche. And just to try and keep informed. But to get back to what we were saying about Canada, and we're being run by crooks, and we thought we got rid of one crook in the form of Trudeau, and now we've got another crook. And that's something that you and Jason have talked about, and you bring up the term, and I've taken exception to, is that Canadians are stupid or Canadians are dumb, whatever. But and I don't like that, because that's all encompassing, including yourself. And that's something I encourage the audience to keep in mind. It's not everybody. Like, think of it. Look in the mirror. Are you the part of the problem, or are you part of the solution? And then if you dig a little deeper, well, what is the problem? And it gets more interesting. And it's actually, I'm very optimistic that we can make a change. On the federal level, yeah, the hurdles are pretty high. And that's something hopefully we can touch base with on today's podcast. And like, I spent a career doing analysis. I'm an exploration geologist by trade. digging, gathering data, uh, parsing the data, analyzing, and trying to figure out where it's taking me, all in the search of new mineral deposits. And really, those skills apply to a broad range of topics, including politics. And the one aspect that really bugs the crap out of me are polls. I hate polls. They are terrible, terrible statistics. In fact, most people are familiar with the phrase, or that, who was it? It was Mark Twain. Was that there's statistics? No, there's lies, damn lies, and then there's statistics. And the reason for that is that, well, numbers are facts, but it's how you apply those facts. That's where statistics come into play. And polls are terrible examples, are actually great examples of why statistics can be used for very nefarious reasons, and why they're actually the primary tool of propaganda. So here in Canada, we're roughly about 40 million people now. You look at all these polls, like, for example, there's one I just saw just yesterday. I think it was Ipsos, and about how Canadians are, no, the majority of Canadians are in support of what Carney's doing. And then you look at the numbers. Well, they sample like 1,500 people. 1,500 people out of 40 million. Another way of looking at it is that there's 338 ridings now federally in Canada. And so that means to get a good representation, they sampled roughly 5 people per riding to get to 1,500. Like, that's not representative at all. But that's if you actually were very randomized. And that's where the true secret of any good statistic is, having a random sample. But they're not random. No, they have their panels. They have their people who they call up, and they always answer. And you think to yourself, like, you've had phone calls like that where I'm calling about doing a survey. And what's your response?
I always lie. So they say, like, how is Mark Carney doing? I'm like, great. He should do more of what he's doing.
Well,
I try to
I
taint the
typically
results.
hang up.
Oh, yeah.
So the thing is that what I'm getting to is that people that take part in polls are biased.
Hmm.
So you put in a fake result, that's a bias. So it's a poor sample.
Let me,
And
I'm just going to go to Brenda Raven. How to Lie with Statistics was required reading in my university stats course.
I only took the one statistics course in university too, but I don't remember coming across that one.
Alan, I have
Yeah.
a question. Prairie 745. I really want to hear these changes you think we'll be able to make. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to leave that to the end?
Sure. Okay, can Prairie expand on that question a little bit further? What changes?
Oh, we were talking earlier when I introduced. I said not only do we want to talk about the problems, but like how do we fix our country? So you mentioned you like the People's Party because of the
Yep.
platform.
Okay, all right. That's a good one. That's a really good one. So right now, similar to, and this fits well with the statistics business. So during the last election, the one that you ran in, the polls were classic propaganda, because I saw it happening in real time. Is that the Conservatives were doing well, they were climbing, it was going to be a wipeout for the Liberals, and then bang, that doesn't happen unless that was fixed. Okay, so and then people are. There's a movie I really love to watch because it's very simple and emblematic of the point I want to make here, and that's the movie Up. That's the animated one with the what's his name? That Ed Asner is the voice of the character. And he's old. His wife has passed away. They had this dream of going to these falls down in South America. So he vowed that he's going to make the trip. And so he floated his house away on a bunch of balloons. Okay. So that's the main theme. Now, I really love that because the first 5 minutes is really great for illustrating that don't leave your dreams too late. You know, kind of grab the brass ring whenever you can. Otherwise, you'll live to regret it. But the main one is that in there, they have these trained dogs. And the dogs are flying, in one episode, they're flying these little planes. And they have machine guns. They're shooting away and then, squirrel! And that's what human beings are like. Like we're like. We're easily distracted. And that's why I key on that. And that's what happened with those polls. It was a squirrel moment for the nation. And we've seen that so many times. Another example, quickly to illustrate, is that with Trudeau, things were going back with the economy and everything else. And then Ukraine was a squirrel moment because there's suffering in Ukraine. But what's that got to do with us in Canada? Absolutely nothing. It took our attention away from our problems and then got us distracted onto something else. So I get back to the theme here is that what can we do about it? And one is that the reason I brought these up is that we face a huge issue in that there's censorship by the machine, by Leviathan, by the government. Like there should not be a debates commission. Like that was a farce in the first place. And what was it? That was put in by Trudeau. And was it 2017? 2017, 2018, regardless. There should not be a debates commission, period. But there is. So Maxime Bernier was denied access to the debates in 21 because, again, using polls and selective polls, you had to have at least 3% or whatever of the on the national polls. So he was excluded because they picked the lowest ones. And then we had an election, and we did all, as the party, we did all right. And we had ended up with about 5%. Well over the threshold. Come 2025, and it's your turn. And they, no, we're not going to go with the election results because, we don't trust those. We're going to use the fake polls. And the PPC is doing really terrible polls, so we're not going to include those. So there's a good example of the censorship that goes on the national level. And on top of it, the main media out there fighting the battle for the government. The media aren't our friends. No, it's we really have a propaganda machine we got to get around. But there again, if we look around, like for example in BC, where you live there, Payman, is a good illustration of how on a provincial level, and there's far more ability to try new things. Like you saw with the Rustad forming the BC Conservative Party, and then he just being the typical ego. His ego overtook everything else. And we see that too often with things. Personal ego just outpaces. And then he threw Dallas
Brody.
Brophy, right? Dallas
Brody?
Yeah, he kicked Dallas Brody out of the party. And so she right away, she created her own. And already, that's a party of two because there's another former conservative jumped out. But there again, it's showing that there, out west at least, there's enough volatility that we can get things off the ground. The Wild Rose Party started that way. The Saskatchewan Party started that way. Other parties, even Reform back in the 1980s, started that way. And that's the perspective we need to look at. Don't try to win the battle now. Just win one campaign at a time. And that's
Alan,
where
let me give, like, here's a suggestion. First of all, housekeeping, Thunderbird World Media, thank you very much for reminding me. If everybody could share the space, we'd appreciate it. We want to encourage more people to listen to our discussion. Don't split the vote. So I think, let's go with the People's Party. They need to come up with a bulletproof counter argument to that. And one that I've come up with, and they're welcome to use this, is the Conservative Party is focused on forming government, which seems intuitive. But if you want to form government, you can't talk about the major issues because you lose the center. So like, counterintuitively, not splitting the vote is actually harming them. Like, we need a party, a leadership structure that speaks truth to power, that says, here's the problems. Well, Max has kind of said this. He said, if you don't like what I say, leave. But if you could articulate it a little bit better, a good leader points out the problems even when it's not popular to say so.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't buy into the splitting the vote business anyways. That I always thought the Canadian political system was good because we had multiple choice. And with multiple choice, you pick the one that best suits you. Plus, on top of it, and this is where a lot of people forget this, is that right now we're up to 338 elections. No, 343 individual elections. Don't worry about whether or not others are in there. You have to focus only where your vote counts. That's your riding. Pick the candidate who has the policy, the platform that you feel best meshes with you. And for me, that's the People's Party of Canada. I've looked in the mirror and analyzed and studied, like, am I being too dogmatic in my thinking? And no, God, I do believe very firmly in personal freedom. I do believe in responsibility. I do believe in respect. And those
Fairness,
are
fairness.
and fairness. Those are the four foundations of myself. So I can't go away from the People's Party. And when I was a candidate in 21, that was the core of my campaigning. And whenever I had the opportunity to speak to people, it resonated well. And that's why I did reasonably well. Sure, I came in fourth, but I got 1,200 votes. The other candidate in the other kind of sister riding, because I'm in the Thunder Bay area, and the city of Thunder Bay is chopped in half in that two different ridings. There's Thunder Bay Superior North and Thunder Bay Rainy River. And that's another story. I won't get into that. But still, both of us, the two PPC candidates, Rick Daines was the other one, we both got roughly the same number of votes. And it was roughly 5%. And that's where, I sat down and looked at the numbers, and people were saying, well, Thunder Bay, that's a liberal. It's a liberal stronghold. And God, the numbers don't show that. For example, in Rainy River, it's almost, then it was almost a true three-way race. A third of the votes went to the Liberal, a third to the Conservative, and a third to the NDP. And this last one, and that's where splitting the vote came into place. The NDP realized that, holy smokes, why are we voting NDP? The people we voted for, they supported the Liberals. Well, I'll just vote Liberal. And they moved to the Liberals. And the NDP vote just crashed. Not as much as the PPC vote, because unfortunately, those few votes that we got, they got suckered in by that, and they voted Conservative. And there's
I got a comment on the same lines from Prairie. Man, I
Okay.
took some heat from conservatives in chats during the election. Don't split the vote. A vote for Max is a vote for liberals, I was told.
Oh, God. Here's one that I really love. Mark Stein. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with, but he's a columnist. I've followed him for many years. Back in the 1990s, he used to write for Maclean's magazine. Back when Maclean's was actually a good news magazine. And he has it down that he has various variations, but to put the one right into the Canadian context, does it? When liberals are elected, they are in power. When conservatives are elected, they are in office. Okay? So think of that of the black hole. We're going around the black hole and we're approaching the event horizon. And that's really where Canada is right now. The longer the Liberals are in, the closer we are, we're getting to the event horizon. And the event horizon is the point of no return. And so they just keep digging the hole deeper, deeper, deeper. Conservatives get in and they kind of sit there and rest on the shovel. And we see that in Ontario with Doug Ford. He's supposed to be conservative, but there's absolutely no difference between him and the Liberals other than he's not digging the hole deeper. He's maintaining the status quo. And that's the conservative mentality across the country. It's just maintain the status quo. They don't try to get out of the hole. They don't try making the hole deeper. They just maintain the status quo. But other than that, there is no difference between them and the Liberals. Zero. And a good illustration of that, there's a number of examples. Probably one of the best ones is, if everyone remembers, I think is it 2 years ago now or 3 years ago, when there's that Hunka fellow that they celebrated in Parliament in September of, okay, so that's 23? I guess it was 23 already. How time flies. Or was it 24? Regardless, that's neither here nor there. The Parliament was unanimous. Every member of Parliament gave a standing ovation to this guy. Okay? Including Pierre Poilievre. And what was special about Hunka? During World War II, he fought against the Russians. Okay? Now, you don't have to be a history major to realize that, Russians, weren't they our allies during the Second World War? If they were fighting against the Russians, who were they fighting with? And it turns out he was with the Ukrainian SS division.
Yeah, that Ukrainian thing, it just, I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, it just shows how arrogant these people are, that they thought that they could get away with this. They must have mentioned this. They must have said, listen, you do realize that the Nazis were the bad guys. I'd be like, yeah, but we can present it like this, and the Russians are the enemies right now. They were so arrogant, they thought that they could actually get away with a Nazi in Parliament.
And that's part of the squirrel effect. Because nobody thinks about these distractions. Nobody actually analyzes them. It's just, that's different. Oh, that's different. And we lose track of what we need to focus on. And that kind of brings us back to, well, what do we do to fix things? Well, one is, don't worry about forming government. Like a reform. Deborah Gray, she was the first member of Parliament for the Reform Party in Canada. And she won in a by-election. The Conservative won in the election, and then the election's over, and he died. So they had a by-election. And she came in a distant, I can't remember during the actual election, but they said, what the hell? We'll give her a try. And that's one of the things I point out about uh, for the People's Party is that Maxime can call himself leader all he wants, but it's whoever gets elected will make it be the actual representative of the party. And so in that election, Deborah Gray was made deputy leader because Preston Manning was the leader at the time, but automatically she became deputy leader because she's the only one who had a seat in Parliament. But that broke the dam. When she got elected, reform, people started looking at, oh, now they're real. And that's the critical aspect right now is that, yeah, maybe it'll be too late. But all we need is one. And maybe Payman, you'll be that one. Or maybe someone like Jason Levine will be that first one. I don't know. There's a lot of, I've been impressed with a lot of that the People's Party has gathered a lot of really good candidates to its fold. People with that are different than the conservatives and different than the liberals in that they actually have morals and ethics, principles. They're principled.
I'll make some mentions. John Eady in Vancouver. He's very articulate. RTM Ovsepian. He's in Alberta. He's very smart, confident. The gentleman, I forget his name, but he's the one that brought the case against the Emergency Measures Act invocation that later became the Mosley decision. He ran for the PPC. Also very articulate. I did an interview with him, and he inspired me in that 1 hour. Like, he was just such a good person. I'm missing a couple. There was one other woman in Ontario. But yeah, like, they're very good people. We're not as polished as the conservatives, but because we don't have the billion-dollar machine behind us, but we're good people.
Yeah. But back to that last point you made, I have a good friend. He's lives in Sault Ste. Marie, and he has been playing kind of both sides. I've decided to go with, okay, you can either try and fix things from the inside or you start over. And the starting over, that's the People's Party of Canada. So I've gone that route. My friend is on the provincial side, is taking that path by supporting New Blue. And on the federal side, the Conservative Party of Canada. Mm-hmm. So, and he told me an interesting story during this last election in April. The Conservative head office told the candidates, do not go into any debates. They were told, do not do any debates. Like that's crazy. And they had some good candidates up here in Northern Ontario. The Conservatives did. And pretty much every one of them lost. And not by much. And it was the party that did them in because it didn't allow them to be candidates. No, they were just, they were treated like, I write for the, on a Substack newsletter. Right now it's called the Amethyst Trail, but it used to be called the Purple Wave back when we were very optimistic about the future. And I wrote one article there called Cardboard Cutouts. And unfortunately, that's what it's too much of Canadian politics has boiled down to, is that we have a lot of people out to be candidates, and they're not allowed by the parties to be what they're supposed to be. And that's representatives of the people at Parliament. And you have to show that you want to be a good representative during the campaign. And if they're not even allowed by the party to demonstrate to the voting public that they have the chops, well, we see the results of that. Which reminds me is that in the business world, we have to go through job interviews. You have to demonstrate that you have the right skills and everything else, the right mentality for the job. The one job where that doesn't apply is politics. We have some really good people that put themselves forward And the voters ignore that. And a lot of them vote strictly because of their ideologues. They've always voted for a party, and it's hard to convince them otherwise. But back to the numbers I mentioned earlier, is that even there's a lot of waffling during the elections, that ideologues are probably 10 to 15% in general of the voter block, or maybe 20%. Those are the ideologues. And you portion that out to each party. Like there's a chunk that are ideologues. They will always vote that way. But then there's the bunch, the independents, so to speak. And if you can get the message to them and they buy your message, and we've seen that in the past. But
That's
this last election,
That's what I wanted to talk about. Like either the independents, the more centrist ones, or the non-voters that have just clued out, that have dropped out. A lot of people have shared this with me. They said, "Payman, what the People's Party should have done or should do, instead of going left and right, instead of attacking the Conservative Party, they should make it about the individual versus the state, and you could say the individual versus the globalists,
yep,
and really hammer that home and paint the Conservative Party as the uniparty. It
yep.
doesn't matter which one you vote for. You're going to get the same trash, that black hole digging analogy you gave. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I agree with that, but there's a little subtle difference between your view and my view on that. When I ran in 23, I was the candidate. Yeah, the letters on my and I wore as my uniform a T-shirt, the PPC T-shirt, and for me I was like I took part in this one seminar and dress for success. Well, for myself, my experience as a field geologist, getting out there in the bush, and out here in Northwest Ontario, bush workers are quite common, and so I dressed like I dressed during when I was working in the field. Dressed to work. I was dressing in my mind for success. So the reason I say all that is that I use the PPC brand, but I was selling myself as being someone who could stand up for those four principles that we're talking about: fairness, freedom, respect, and responsibility in Parliament. And I didn't worry about headquarters. They provided the branding. I liked the platform, but I pick and chose the parts of the platform that I thought I could sell in my writing. And I went with that. The only problem, like I said already, is the censorship with all the other things. I really didn't have a chance to talk to that many people, but it left me feeling very good that those I did, the message resonated. And that's the thing for anybody listening here, is that, and especially for yourself, Payman, is don't worry about the party. If the PPC has the platform that you feel meshes well with you, hey, go with it. But that's where it stops. You need to sell yourself to your potential constituents. And that's where we've lost the ability, for the most part. And it's really hard. Like, I don't think it's possible for the ridings where close to home here, because there's just so huge. Like, for example, I ran in the Rainy River riding, and like it's like 500 kilometers by like 200 kilometers in size. And that's a lot of traveling just to little pockets here and there that so I had no choice but to try and focus on Thunder Bay South, because that's the part that's in that riding. And And that's where I have no regrets running as a candidate, because by doing so, I really got to see firsthand what the issues were. And the biggest one was money. I didn't have enough money to run a good campaign. I barely had enough money to get out cards hand delivered, and I did a lot of it myself to the residents of Thunder Bay. It would have been better if I could have done like 3 rounds. Okay, here's an introduction, here's a follow up, and here's a final chance to review what I have to offer. But I didn't have that. And so back to again, well, what can we do? Stop trying to win the country and start by focusing on ridings where there's a reasonable chance of winning, because people are open to alternatives. And Western Canada, BC in particular, we're already talking about, there are good ridings where that can happen. Like again, that story with Deborah Gray. She slipped right in, and all we need is just that one to open up.
You know, Alan, I agree with you, and I don't fully understand this fascination to get for the PPC to get one candidate in every riding. I think it's a monetary issue,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
it would make more sense to focus on ridings where you have a chance. Because, like, my riding, West Vancouver, is very liberal. Downtown Vancouver, like, forget it. You're not going to get in.
I think one reason is that, like for the debates commission, you had to have a national exposure. But there again, they said that, and then the Parti Québécois, they're exception. So every other party had to have a national exposure, but the BQ didn't. They were strictly in Quebec, but they were allowed to be at the debate. So there's the one of the many issues is that we have a lot of institutional barriers, and we have to just get around those. And that's where, by picking the right ridings where you can get around, and that's where I'm going to change my focus too. Is that I this last election I donated the max that I could legally, and to the candidate in a different riding than where I was.
You know, let me pick up on that, Alan. So we're trying to be more solution centric, and I want to give a solution, but I have to first describe
Yep.
the challenge.
Yep.
I
It's
I didn't.
pushback. Pushback. It's always good to have
No,
pushback,
no,
because
it's
that
fine.
reinforces how good your ideas are.
Um, I found that my biggest barrier was not money directly. It was a lack of awareness and a lack of volunteers. You could say that's because we didn't have money.
Hmm?
If I could give some advice to the People's Party, if you wanted this time focus on certain ridings, get your candidates, former candidates, to provide their services. Like, even if you host a town hall event, for example. So if you can get 10 candidates, former candidates, 10 volunteers from the neighboring ridings, go and do one town hall event in the library. It's very cheap, $25. Even if you can get 4 or 5 people from the community to show up, if you do that once a week, that is a huge assistance to the candidate. I had to do all of this stuff on my own, so I'd go get a room. Nobody would show up because there's no community outreach. So community outreach, if you can pool your resources, that's one area I think would help.
Yes, I agree. And that was something I was reasonably fortunate with. But there again, that was is I was overwhelmed, but very appreciative of what happened. Is that uh, I don't consider myself religious. My mother is a devout Anglican whenever she chooses to be, and but that's neither here nor there. But still, a lot of my foundational morals and ethics come from Christianity, and so I acknowledge that. But the part that bothers me to this day has been I have a hard time dealing with hypocrisy. So that's one reason why I'm a firm believer of you don't talk the talk, you have to walk the walk as well. You have to be 100%, and that's my personal philosophy, and I live by that. And the reason I bring this up is that during the campaign, I had a small group of volunteers. And oh God, how am I going to do this? I faced the problems you did. And believe it or not, every time I needed that little extra help, poof, a volunteer would come out of the woodwork and I would get over that hump several times during that campaign. And unfortunately, all of them, they kind of disappeared after the election, but still. But there again, it's just getting enough of the word out to various people. And I can't say what the secret really was, but at the time, I honestly thought that I do now believe there has to be a God.
Yeah.
I may not be religious per se, but yeah, no, there's times that when I needed help, it was there. And probably the best example is like what we saw last year in, what was it, August in the States? No, that,
Oh, they almost took out Donald Trump. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. And that was a turning point in that election. And no, that was a miracle. So it kind of has made me reflect on things like that. That and also one of the aspects in previous years that if there really was a God, why would they condone all the misery and suffering that we apply to so many others, to many humans? Why humans are so cruel to ourselves? Why are we so cruel to ourselves if there really was a God? But there again, to be omnipotent like that, no, to watch over everything and do something for all of it, that's an impossible job. So you have to be very pick and choose your moments and let them find their own path. And that's kind of the view with Trump that I think really kicked in. And it's also kind of the view for during that election that at the end, come election night, and I lost, came in fourth. Because up until then, I thought, I might just win this thing. That's how confident I felt, because at every critical moment, there's that support. But I didn't. But it hasn't, I still think I have a lot to help others. And so here we are 4 years later, and I'm still active with the party, still active with the writings. I try to be very different in the writings that I do on the Amethyst Trail and the predecessor, the Purple Wave. Of I don't bitch and complain. I always try to end up with some sort of positive note of where can we go. But I freely admit I don't have all the answers. I don't even know if these are really the answers. But there's what the heck? What's the worst can happen if you try something? You fail. If you don't try something, you fail. It's just like a lottery. Like I rarely buy a lottery ticket because, hey, the odds are definitely against my favor, and I've never seen the odds favor myself very much. But yet, the saying goes, you can't win without a ticket applies. And that's the same with even politics. That we can gripe and complain, but the best thing is just try to do something, anything.
So
Yeah.
let's go to some of the comments, and then I
Sure.
want to do one final follow up, and then I got to go buy some aspirin. um, Brenda Raven says, because we're given free will, it's a test of faith. This is in reference to your previous comments. I've asked the same question, Alan. I think she means, why? How could God stand by and let us be so cruel to each other? The first line of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms is, whereas Canada is founded on the principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law. So
Yeah.
God is in our Constitution. Yes, Alan, there are lessons in failure. We won't go down this today. We won't have time. But Muslim values are not Canadian values. I know it's controversial to say that, but it is a Christian country. It shouldn't be controversial.
Well, no, it shouldn't be controversial.
Yeah.
Virtual. Like that's one of the things that about Christianity in itself is the Reformation, right? No, well, Martin Luther said, "I believe in Christ, but what we're doing here makes no sense." And Christianity has gone through a lot of evolution as a result. Islam has not, and that shows you something's wrong. And if you look at the Quran, it really it does not like dissent. And really, Canada is becoming an Islamic country because the Liberals don't like dissent. And that's
I
what we
always say,
see with these current bills that they're trying to push.
it's like
They
the
have,
Islamic Republic here.
oh yeah.
Alan,
No.
let's just one final thing, one possible solution. And I've tried to do this. I've gone to different, let's call them freedom groups,
Mm-hmm.
Freedom Rising, BC Rising, Action for Canada, and say, guys, each one of you represents a voter bloc. If you pool your resources together, find one riding where you represent enough to swing the votes and hold the debates. Like, if we could get one debate hosted by somebody that's a friendly actor, and
Yep.
we force the other candidates to come in, they're toast. They
Yep.
can't ask their biased questions anymore. What are your thoughts?
I agree 100%. And I can't recall, we kind of were working towards that either in our preamble prior to the start of the podcast or early in the podcast. But I did mention about ego. And that is the serious, serious problem with the right. There's too much ego going on. Take, for example, Derek Sloan. He was kicked out of the Conservative Party. He had a seat in Parliament. He easily could have said, I'm going to join the PPC. But he didn't. He ran as an independent. He decided, well, no, I'll stay on as an independent. And then he got out of the riding that elected him and went out west to Calgary and tried to run there as an independent. And all it was is because of his ego. He couldn't separate himself from his ego. If he had just done that, who knows what would have happened, because that would have been like Deborah Gray breaking the wall down. And he didn't. And that's the thing is about what you described. Too many egos. And I've seen that like with Druthers magazine, not Druthers newsletter. Like for the last few years since 2020 with COVID, like they started writing and trying to get people going, but they wouldn't back anybody politically. And who was the one politician out there that was consistent on the rights of those that, oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to be a guinea pig? And that was Maxime Bernier. Yet Druthers, they wouldn't back him. These organizations you talked about, no, they wouldn't back anybody because it's all about friggin' ego. And that's the thing is we need to come together. This is one of the things that I've written about, I've talked about, that I really admire about Western Canada. That's the where the cooperative movement started. And it's ironic. The NDP, their roots are the cooperative movement. And unfortunately, the socialists got in there and they hijacked it. But cooperatives are farmers in Western Canada, where all independent businessmen, but they all share a common need for machinery, uh, seeds, equipment, and all of that. So they get together, take ownership of these companies, and they share the profits and the benefits of the cooperative. And that's where the attitude has to change. The groups that you said have to take on that aspect, being cooperative. The getting, like right now, the one party that I know the best that has a platform that I love the name because it's so generic is the People's Party of Canada. Not the Conservatives, not it's the People's Party. And again, a while back I wrote an article about this. This is quite a while back, 3 years ago. The Big Tent Party. I look at the People's Party as being the Big Tent. That basic platform, a lot of people can relate to it, and that's where organizations like the ones you cited need to throw their friggin' egos out the window and cooperate. Because if we don't, we're friggin' toast. And that's the thing that's what populism is all about. We have to come together. Not conservatives, not this or whatever. We have to come together. Together we can win. And it's these being focused on core values that really mean something. And the one thing be unified with is get away from this socialist nonsense. We have to slay the dragon, and the dragon is Leviathan. Leviathan is killing us. And that's the only way forward is we have to slay the dragon. And the only way we can slay the dragon is not one person. It's an army. We come together, and together we can slay the dragon. And that's probably the best way to close this, I think, Payman, is that there's the message for all of us, is that we need to come together as people of Canada and slay the friggin' dragon, Leviathan. And the leader of Leviathan right now is the Uniparty, just like there. Yes, I agree with you 100%, Prairie 745. The Uniparty is the dragon. They're the ones, whether the NDP, the Conservatives, the Liberals, they love big government. Big government is Leviathan. Leviathan is our enemy.
Well put, and it's a perfect place to end it. Alan, can you tell the audience where they can go to read your Substack articles?
Sure. It's the Amethyst trail.substack.com. And all of the past articles, including the ones from Purple Wave, are there as well. You just scroll back through. I think we're over 200 articles, because been publishing one issue a week since November of 2021.
That's dedication.
Yes.
Well, everybody go ahead, go to Substack, read Alan's articles. I'm looking forward to the next two you're going to post. Those two you shared with me. Those are fantastic. I read one of them out today.
And the final one is everybody like and share. Because right now I've been struggling to get up to 140 subscribers. And the thing is, I know, Payman, with your viewers, you're struggling to get viewership. Mm-hmm. The only way we can slay the dragon is we have to come together, and we need to support people like ourselves. And that's like and share, get the message out to others, and together we can do this.
Absolutely, Alan. And also, Prairie says a great guest. Once again, Payman, loved hearing from Alan. So thank you very much, Prairie.
Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you very much, Payman, for giving me the opportunity.
No worries, Alan. Goodbye, everyone. And thanks again for coming on, Alan. Take care.
You're very welcome.